Hello, all guys, gals, and non binary pals. Welcome to the newest episode of the Noobs and Knockouts Podcast, taped on the Twitch and available on YouTube, on Spotify, and Google and Apple Podcasts. I'm Austin. I'm a knockout, watched a whole lot of wrestling.
I'm David. I'm a noob. Haven't watched nearly as much wrestling. Although after this arc, I have watched substantially more women's wrestling, and I feel the emphasis should not only be on the more, but on the substantial.
That's true. Because what we have reached the end of our NXT Four Horsewomen arc. What an art. We have I can't it's so crazy that we have actually followed a story for a year
You know,
of in their time, not our
yeah,
time.
it's so what this story like this feels like the we we been following this for more than 5 episodes, or is it the standard 5?
Still, I just stuck it all in 5 episodes.
This feels like it's been so much longer, dude. This feels like this has been like a years long process for us almost of just like because we went so thorough with this arc, and it's felt so all encompassing for everything we've wanted to talk about when it comes to kind of the modern era and women's wrestling, kind of two of the hottest topics on this show. So it feels so wild to have this one specifically coming to an end to kind of as we are wont to do, date this show. I almost want to shoehorn in an observation somebody made after Full Gear this last weekend, which is it almost feels like we're coming to the end of chapter 1 of the Noobs and Knockouts.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I was gonna make a gag that this is the season 2 premiere of the Noobs and
Yeah.
Knockouts
See, I
podcast.
feel like I'm not gonna I think that's delayed a couple more episodes because I feel like the end of season 1 officially is gonna be when we do WrestleMania 3, and then you're spoiler alert for the audience subjecting me to a bunch of bad arcs. Um
Oh,
and
that's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
yeah, so I feel like I because we've hit some of our biggest arcs most recently in the Hulk Andre, in NXT, in New World Order, and Lucha's just kind of a running thing. But kind of with
Right.
all of that and the 50th episode around this time too, once we hit the end of all that, that feels like the end of chapter 1, I think.
Sure, that's fair. So I will say that to kind of get back to this arc is how we're ending this arc is with my favorite match of all time.
Yep.
Is how this ends. And I'm not going to tell David how this ends, but I'm going to say this right now. If he can't figure it out, then I'm going to be a little disappointed. If he can't figure out how this all ends. But let's go ahead and get to our front half, which is a real front half this time, by the way.
Oh.
First, let's go ahead and do some quick review of what happened last time. Is we built to NXT Takeover Unstoppable with Sasha Banks as the NXT Women's Champion versus Becky Lynch in a match that was kind of Becky's big coming out party for NXT. She got her origin story on air. She kind of became her steampunky best self, and she had a kick-ass match with Sasha that did end in defeat, but still fantastic match overall.
I agree. I just agree wholeheartedly. Yes, it was phenomenal, and it's great to see. Like we opined last time, great to see Becky come into her own as kind of the final member of the Horsewomen.
Mm-hmm. And then, in addition to that, we had a bit of a secondary story with Bayley and Emma. Emma coming back to NXT is the jaded, bitter failure of them on the main roster, taking out all of her like baggage onto Bayley, and Bayley being like, "We are not the same," and then adding on, you get Dana Brooke, who's kind of like trying to establish herself as a newer heel top strong character in NXT, challenging Charlotte, a bit of a current top dog, and then Bayley and Charlotte tag teamed with Emma and Dana Brooke at TakeOver, and the good guys got the dub.
Yeah, which is solid as always. Bayley, I'm just really interested to see kind of what the end of Bayley's arc looks like here, especially because she's been kind of she was the first character to really get a spotlight on this arc for us, and it's been such a wild ride with her. I'm really interested to see what that comes to completion as at the end of this.
Right. So, if this is your first time watching one of the episodes of this arc of ours, is we don't watch we don't watch one particular episode all the way through, and like we do with every other kind of arc we do on this show. Instead, for this arc, because of how long it was, I've scheduled it out so we watch all the segments related to the Horsewomen over a series of episodes. So we got to see one. We followed one storyline through instead of following all of them, seeing a snapshot of all of them. But this episode, we're going to have a real like front half where I talk about stuff that have happened in other episodes, because we're skipping a series of episodes and starting at a later point than the episode after the Takeover Unstoppable. And the reason for that is because just like for our pay-per-view shows, we only have so much time to watch these episodes and film this. And there was about 3 hours of content, of women's content from this to NXT Takeover Brooklyn. That's what we're building to. The first takeover to happen outside of Full Sail. Yes. And so the first hour of it I felt was pretty easy to cut overall, and it creates and it has a nice stopping. It's a nice easy point to cut at the first hour of content and the last 2 hours. So I made the decision. That's how we're going to do it this time. So what has happened? What happens up to, we're starting on the July 15th episode to NXT today. So what happened about the last 6 weeks before that? So on the May 27th episode of NXT, we got the first episode after Takeover Unstoppable. We got Emma versus Bayley in another one-on-one match. And it was all right. It's, if you're trying to plot Emma and Bayley's arc together, like their first match back together since Emma came back was very much Bayley trying to make it friendly. And this one is their enemies now. Like that ship has sailed. No, friendship is over.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and amazingly, Emma gets the win with relatively little cheating, actually. I kind of didn't expect that, but Emma gets the win, and her and Dana do the beatdown on Bayley until Charlotte comes to her aid. And then they beat down Charlotte too, so rip-a-rooney. But they're really putting over Emma and Dana Brooke as two really strong bad guys of the future.
Yeah, no, they've kind of been inserted later on. It's been wild. It's been wild to have that just get thrown in here.
Sure. And then the next episode, the June 3rd episode of NXT, all we really had was a Sasha Banks video package highlighting her time in NXT and her time as champion. And it's her repeating a lot of her general talking points of how she is the greatest NXT women's champion. She's the boss. No one's going to beat her. The June 10th episode of NXT has a Dana Brooke video package that, again, highlights her. You get highlights from her matches, and she's talking about how she's the future of NXT. And so, again, we're really making her out to be like the next big thing. And it's like, wow, hype for Dana Brooke never gets bigger than this, does it?
Yeah, that's the downside to this is always like, the ones we know don't really go on to any sort of greatness.
No,
they tried. Oh, no.
Knowing that Dana Brooke doesn't pan out, it's like, oh.
Yeah, it's kind of sad.
I remember when I was excited for her potential. I was like, this is a big star right here. I'm calling it. And then I'm like, oh.
Oh, God.
Anyway, we then get a match between Emma and Blue Pants. It's kind of a fun match because they kind of play up like Emma hates friendship and fun now. And so like Dana, Blue Pants is trying to like keep it fun and light, and the crowd chants happy birthday at her. Apparently it's her birthday. And Emma's just like, you know what? Fuck this. Fuck you. I hate all of this. I'm going to just win.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we get a match between Becky Lynch, her return match after NXT TakeOver, and Jessie McKay, Currently, she's a jobber, but she is going to become one half of my favorite tag team in NXT eventually. So, but for
Okay,
now,
nice.
for now, she's getting the, hey, you're new to NXT, so you're going to be a jobber for a bit before we find something for you to do character. So Becky gets the dub, and that is that.
Fair enough.
Yeah. June 17th, we get a squash match between Charlotte and Cassie and Casey Cassidy. She is the other half of that tag team I just mentioned with Jessie McKay. But same thing. They both came into NXT at the exact same time. It's that Jessie McKay and Casey Cassidy is fun because they were real life friends. They're both from Australia, and then they came into NXT at the exact same time as jobbers, and then they became a tag team. It's pretty sweet.
Oh shit.
Yeah, it's very kind of a cool story.
Serendipity.
Charlotte gets the win, and then we get a backstage interview with Dana Brooke where she's calling out Charlotte for having opportunities handed to her, and now she's gonna hand Charlotte an ass kicking next time she sees her. And I will save my comment on that for a slightly ahead of this timeline here. But
okay.
Suffice to say, I don't like this plot line with Charlotte, and I'll explain that in a second. Sure. So the June 24th episode of NXT, we get Dana Brooke versus Casey Cassidy. I see all the matches in order before I actually watch them to have an idea of how many matches I'm going to be looking at in a particular segment. And so I saw that back to back and was kind of hoping it becomes almost this anything you can do, I can do better bit where Dana Brooke trying to beat the same person that Charlotte beat, but faster. I thought they would play into that. They don't.
Oof.
Dana just wins. And then we get an interview with Charlotte, and Charlotte is like, has a backstage interview where she responds to Dana Brooke, and she's like, nothing has been handed to me. The only thing I was handed was an opportunity. And so I'll talk why. Here's why I hate this, right? Is Charlotte gets this sometimes, and John Cena also gets this a lot, by the way. He has a similar plot, and I complain about this too, is that the argument of Charlotte is given things because of her last name. There's a certain out of kayfabe sense that makes. That was clearly her foot in the door for someone who otherwise who otherwise wasn't in wrestling. And if you look at why is Charlotte a 13-time women's champion over the course of the next 5 years? The answer to that question, a big part of that answer is her last name is Flair. But the problem with that is in kayfabe, she won everything legitimately.
Yeah.
So trying to portray her as a fraud who was only given everything she's been given, who is given everything that she has, doesn't really make sense when in kayfabe, all these fights are real and she just is the best.
Even out of kayfabe, sure, she gets she gets their foot in the door because her name is Charlotte Flair. But even out of kayfabe, she's a really talented worker, and this weird this always bothers me. Nepotism is a factor with people who have important daddies or whatever. Sure, that's a factor. But when that person has genuine talent, it's kind of frustrating to see them always be dismissed as it's nepotism, whatever. At least acknowledge the talent that's there.
Yeah, it's overall not great. And I was comparing that to John Cena because a lot of they like to do meta storylines with John Cena about how he isn't a good wrestler and he's just an ass kisser that gets opportunities, which especially the he can't wrestle part, that's very in meta out of kayfabe stuff.
Yeah.
That makes no sense in kayfabe when John Cena had to win every single match that he ever had legitimately.
It worked with Summer of Punk because it was a work shoot and it was kind of meta, but outside of that, it does get a little like, why are we trying to blur the lines here?
Yeah, and he didn't, and I think that worked with Punk because he didn't frame it as John Cena is a bad wrestler. He framed it as John Cena gets opportunities to be in championship matches because he is John Cena.
Mm-hmm.
He painted it as like Cena, it's like he wins he takes advantage of the opportunities he's given, but he's given a lot more opportunities than me.
Yeah.
I should have more opportunities because I'm better than him. So
yeah, exactly.
It still makes sense. Saying that, like, trying to portray Cena as a bad wrestler doesn't make sense when he's a 15-time world champion.
Agree.
Anyway, so we get to now the July 1st episode of NXT. The first thing we get is a Becky Lynch interview. If you've noticed, she's been pretty absent a lot. And we reveal that we're back in the trainer's room, and she reveals that with her match with Sasha, she injured her hip. And she tried, and the way she phrases it is she tried to hide it. She tried to wrestle through it, but it didn't, but just made it worse. So she's got to, like, actually take time off now. She's got to let this actually heal.
Oh, shit.
So Becky Lynch is out of action for the time being.
Oh, shit.
And then Emma and Carmella had a singles match together. Emma got the dub. And that was that. But then we get a backstage bit in the locker room. Haven't had that in a while. Emma and Dana are hanging out in the locker room, apparently going to have an interview with Devin Taylor. And they're eyeing Sasha Banks' NXT Women's Championship that is hanging out of her locker. And then Sasha comes up and is like, "The fuck you doing?"
Yeah.
What you doing? Touching my belt. And they don't try to act like they weren't. They're like, we were kind of eyeing your belt. We kind of want to take it.
At least they're honest.
And she's like, and Sasha's like, "Oh, hell no. I'll fight both of you." And they're like, "LOL, sure. Okay. Next week you can fight both of us if you can find a tag team partner," which you won't. So we get to next week, July 8th. We get Sasha Banks has come to the ring. Emma and Dana come out, and they're like, "Well, don't got a partner, LOL." And then out comes Charlotte.
Oh, shit, buddy.
Charlotte comes out and is like, "Sasha, I'll do this for you, but you owe me."
Okay.
And so I actually was kind of sad because this is the one-time reunion of the BFFs, kind of where we started it all. And I wanted to show this to David, but we didn't have time. We don't have time. Sadly, commentary doesn't really play up this aspect of that too. That sucks, but we would have talked about it.
Yes.
But unfortunately, we don't have time tonight, or we would have watched that tag ourselves.
Fair enough.
But Sasha and Charlotte, they win, and Charlotte lays down her demands. Next week on NXT, I want another title match. And Sasha's like, "Okay, shit, fine. I guess you did do me a solid."
Yep. That's a good power move from Charlotte. I'm here for it.
Yep. And then last, we got a Bayley promo where she is backstage talking about how Emma broke her hand. That's why she's been missing recently. And I have no idea where this happened. She doesn't mention when it happened. And so I was like looking back on the Emma Bayley match, and that we had this as like, was that when it happened? But no, like, I don't really know when it happened. So I assume it's a real injury, not kayfabe, but I have no idea when Emma broke her hand. But she's like, "You know what? I'm going to come back stronger." She brings up Triple H and Stone Cold Steve Austin becoming champion after having a serious injury. And she swears that, "Emma, I'm coming for you when I get back." And so that is everything up to NXT from where we're going to start. But before that, there is one more thing I have to talk about. The July 13th episode of Monday Night Raw. So a little backstory for this is that on Raw, up to this point, Nikki Bella is the current Divas champion, and she's kind of running roughshod over the whole division with the Bella Army, with her sister Brie, and Alicia Fox. Her biggest challenger right now is Paige, and unfortunately, Paige is trying to get some friends to help her fight the Bellas, but no one wants to take her up on that offer because in the time since Paige has left NXT, she has turned heel and turned babyface again. So the locker room doesn't trust her because of her time as a heel. It was actually quite clever. So she's like, I'm out of friends. I got to go it alone. And so on the July 13th episode, she's calling out the Bellas and Alicia Fox, and out comes Stephanie McMahon. Stephanie McMahon is like, so I see what your struggles here. And, and Stephanie, she talks about how there's been a bit of a revolution building here in WWE. And she tonight is going to kickstart that revolution. And she reveals Paige's new friends, Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch.
Oh, shit, buddy.
They have been called up to the out of NXT. Get it?
Oh, shit, buddy.
But then out comes Tamina and Naomi, who are Team Bad at this point in time. And they're like, hey, whoa. What is this shit going on right here? What is this? And Stephanie's like, don't worry, guys. I got a new friend for you, too. Introducing Sasha Banks, has also been called up to Monday Night Raw. And so on the main roster, this is the birth of the Divas Revolution of that main roster. And while I have plenty to say about why I hate this segment and how it was constructed, the key for our thing is to note now that Sasha, Becky, and Charlotte are officially on their way out of NXT. They're still going to be part of the episodes we watch tonight because they have to tie up the loose ends of NXT, but they are otherwise gone. And that hangs over the plot of these episodes, is the fact that they're leaving.
Shit.
How do you? Oh, okay, you're back.
Yep, shit.
Yeah, so
they also ripped Bayley.
Yeah, Bayley was not called up in this section.
Called up eventually, obviously, but
yes, of course, but
whoops,
she doesn't get to join this party.
Oh no!
So what we're watching tonight is we're going to be watching the NXT 4 Horsewomen segments from July 15th, 2015 episode of NXT to NXT TakeOver Brooklyn on August 22nd, 2015. If you would like to watch along with us, you can watch that through Peacock, WWE's streaming service partner. They have all the episodes of NXT and all the NXT takeovers right there on Peacock. It's $4.99 a month with ads, $9.99 a month without ads. Alternatively, you can go on YouTube and look up the NXT TakeOver Brooklyn Women's Title match, which is again my favorite match ever. It's really good, and I cannot wait to talk about it on this podcast.
I'm excited to see it.
Yep. Until then, I will see you guys in the back half.
Woohoo!
And we are back. We have just finished the road to NXT TakeOver Brooklyn from July 15th, 2015, all the way to TakeOver Brooklyn. And oh man, what a time. David, I'm going to go. I have a whole thing to say. So I'm going to turn this over to you first.
I mean, I have just like a whole lot of notes on everything that went down. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I kind of hinted at this within our first half. But this is truly the most amazing arc I think we followed on this show. This has been the most consummate experience of watching this major cultural shift within modern women's wrestling happen from inception to culmination. And just to have been there for that whole thing as we set up this arc to follow the way we did, it was incredible. It's unlike anything I've ever watched before. It's wild too, because when you get down to it, the storytelling in kayfabe is kind of basic. it's very just we got a whole bunch of passionate, driven ladies, and they oh boy, do they want that shiny. But this is one of those things where the out of kayfabe context adds so much and
Mhm.
contributes actively to what's going on in ring because you know what's going on behind the scenes and you know how these women are kind of becoming the four big faces of this side of the company and watching that happen behind the scenes as they all evolve as performers in ring on mic whatever it's unparalleled, I think, with anything else in pro wrestling.
Mhm.
At least in my opinion, at least from my
Yeah.
humble opinion of the limited relatively things I've watched. But dear Lord, I mean just off the bat overall, fuck, this has been so good.
Yep. I'm gonna make a joke here and say that I did this arc the way I did it because I needed Dave. Oh, that's not even joking. Is I needed David to care about the main event of this episode as much as I did
Oh, I
when it
did.
happened.
I did, and I'm gonna get to that when we get to the main event. I have
Mhm.
whole pages and pages, not
Yeah,
really, but I have a lot of notes on just everything that all
yeah,
the moving parts that kind of came to their final culmination here.
yeah. And my thing is that I want to talk about like planning this arc because I had a bit of a conundrum. Is where do we start and where do we end? Um, Obviously, I chose to do it in NXT Takeover. I forget what it was called, the one with Bayley and Charlotte. I forget its name.
Mhm,
But I considered starting with NXT Takeover R Evolution. That's the Sasha and Charlotte one for a
mhm.
reminder, and ending with the next one, NXT Takeover The End,
Oh.
which had it was Sasha and Bayley main eventing in a 30-minute Iron Man match. And so I thought about ending it there because it literally would have been the story of the women's revolution told from the match that really helped blow it up, which was Sasha and Charlotte. That was the one at a time that like everyone was like, whoa, what the
Mhm,
fuck? And
mhm.
leading all the way to their main event. And I thought
Yeah.
about that. And I think it would have been a good story told that way. But for two things is number one, for the scale of the moment, I don't think Brooklyn was topped. I think Brooklyn was better.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
two, I kind of realized that there was a brilliant story to tell here outside of just the meta context of the women's revolution. And it was the story of Bayley.
Yep.
And I felt vindicated by my decision of how to start and end this arc as soon as we did the first episode for this.
Mhm.
Because outside it in between all of this really cool shit of women gaining more airtime and respect as performers on WWE TV, in the middle we had a real story in between of Bayley's arc and journey from the plucky underdog who was maybe a little too optimistic, a little too childish, but was fought hard, had a lot of heart, and she wanted to win it her way. And she came up short. And then she came up short again and again. But eventually she evolved. She gained a more aggressive side. She learned to stand up for herself. She stayed, but through it all, she stayed true to who she was. And in the end, she ascended to the top
Mhm.
and became the champion.
I mean, I couldn't say it better myself, and that was
Mhm.
my thought for this final arc. Because when you said, well, I'll rewind this to the first episode just as you did, because as I saw Bailey as the main character, kind of in that first set of episodes we
Mhm.
did, I was thinking this has to end with her as the champion. It has to. There's no other way.
Mhm.
And I wasn't entirely sure then when it got to more moving parts being added, when it got to Sasha's reign, when it got to Becky being involved. I wasn't sure if it would
Mhm.
actually go that way. And then we hit tonight and kind of a couple minutes in to when we started watching tonight, I clicked back of, "Oh, yeah, of course this is how it has to end." And
Mhm.
it even makes me, and you'll feel vindicated by this too, it even makes me not necessarily eat my words, but it makes me appreciate a little more the clunky as I thought it may have been, even what we got the last time we did the episode, my slight complaints with kind of
Mhm.
the temptation of Bayley TM. I still think it was handled a little bit clunkily,
Mhm.
but it still contributes overall to that story of the fact that she kept getting knocked down, kept losing by doing things on her terms, but never got away from sticking to her guns, was always staying true to everything she was from the beginning. She gained that more aggressive side, that more that stronger side, able to really substantially stand up for herself. But it was still Bailey, and it just made that final moment feel so amazingly triumphant. Because yeah, this was her story ultimately, and it. I mean, emotionally so satisfying.
Mhm.
And God, what a great arc. Holy shit.
Yep. And what this has been a great time, and that's I talked last time. I mentioned that like I wanted to talk about the impact of this arc in terms of the larger women's wrestling thing. I talked a lot about that at the end of the last episode because I wanted to focus on something else
Mhm.
with this one, and this is what I wanted to focus on was the
Yep.
Bailey side of it.
Yeah.
It became her story, and I
It
was
kind
like,
of
this
always
is so
was.
perfect.
Well, at
Mhm.
least as in the arc as we followed it. I
Yes,
I
as
have to
we followed it,
commend
yeah.
I have to commend the way you plotted this out because it was
Mhm.
perfect.
I
The
wasn't
the
even
the,
prepared for how good that turned out,
the
to be
episode we
honest.
started with set that up so incredibly well. You picked so I have to commend your planet skills on this one, man. That
Mhm.
the pacing of this was it was unparalleled. God
Mhm.
damn. So thank you
Yes,
for
so
that.
of course, yeah. Now that I'm done patting myself on the back here, let's go ahead and get into
Well
it.
deserved. Oh man.
So we start with July 15th with Sasha Banks versus Charlotte Flair for the
Mhm.
NXT title.
Yeah.
And as I kind of alluded to in the first half, there was a lot of this episode feels like tying up loose ends and kind of a culmination of what we've been watching before. And like getting to see Sasha and Charlotte one more time because they were the kind of the forever rivals of this. They have like they have like 4 or 5 singles matches together for
Mhm.
this women's title. We didn't watch all of them, but they had a lot of matches together. So getting it one more time before they both peace out of NXT
Yeah.
was pretty sweet.
Yeah, and this one was really cool too because I harped on this in the last episode, maybe even the episode before, but this was kind of one final showcase of just how much both women have evolved in their work up to this point. I
Mhm.
mean, Charlotte was always the big woof woof final boss in a way that she was super skilled from the beginning, but even she had a lot of growth, I think. And of course Sasha evolved a hell of a lot from when she first began. Both of their movesets developed into these fierce arsenals. This match was nonstop between the two of them. There was always a movement, always one person reversing from what the other did. Both their strength and acrobatics on this one were on full display, and both were at the absolute next level, which I think is really substantiated by I said when we were watching that Charlotte seemed to do kind of a quick tap out relative to
Mhm.
match length and whatever. But I thought about it a little more and it kind of clicked because what I was talking about earlier with Charlotte started off as kind of the final boss. She was the big girl on campus, as it were. Um, this one I the quick tap out kind of works because it shows how Sasha and by extension all the other horsewomen have fully come out to Charlotte's level.
Mhm.
They're able to be that brutal and get they share her power level, and so they're able to overcome her a bit easier than they were in the early days. When I think that's a tremendous thing to see in real time too.
Yeah. Classic anime trope to have the new arc villain kick the
Mhm.
shit out of the old one to show how powerful they are.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't even say this was Sasha kicking the shit out of her. She does get the
Mhm.
dub, but
Yep.
Charlotte puts up a good fight. It's just she's easier dispatched this time. It's almost
Mhm.
like a video game where someone who's a big boss early on then goes on to be an easier mini boss at some point or something.
They're never as good when they're the allies.
Yeah, well, that's how you do.
Anyway,
But
yes.
yeah,
Sasha and Charlotte put on a heck of a match. They get
yeah.
plenty of
I also shout out to Charlotte doing her dad's strut, and then
Mhm.
Sasha at one point getting her knocked down and doing it herself just to taunt her.
Sasha mocking her opponent's taunts has always been my favorite heel thing she does. Like,
She
it's
really
so funny.
came into her own with that, and she went harder than ever on the taunting this time around in
Mhm.
all the stuff we watched, which I'll get to later. But it felt very fun to see just how cocky she's gotten with this.
Yup. So then we progress to July 22nd episode of NXT where they interview Emma and Dana Brooke,
Yeah,
and Emma is about to have her match with Bayley, and she mocks Bayley a little bit. We end up getting Dana and Emma hug to make fun of Bayley.
it was so
Differential.
gay.
Listen, I
Claire,
didn't want
where
to
are
be the
you when we
one to
need you?
bring that up, but like like the way that Emma looks at Dana's bicep is I have questions.
Get you someone who looks at you the way Emma looks at Dana Brooks' biceps.
Yes.
It
But
was great.
they
Also, of course, we always have to head pack Devin Taylor. Pat pat.
yep, rip. Then we get to Bayley and Emma kind of
Yep.
culminating this nonsense that they've had going on.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep. Emma's in full evil red. I commented kind
mm,
of looked like a Wonder Woman breastplate.
yeah.
It it was full yep. The color theory has come to its climax
Color.
here.
Yes, and Bayley running with the injured hand that we
Yep.
mentioned in the front half is broken, which that
Yep.
plays a very big part later.
Oh yeah.
Very excited
We
to talk
get
about
a
that, but for
oh yeah.
now,
We get a
we get
continuation of Aggro Bailey here, and it's super fun to watch.
now this is a Bayley who is fully like I'm a you've hurt you injured me. I'm gonna kick your ass.
Yeah, and this was we were talking about this when we were watching, but this was my big realization of just how much, at least in these early days, I can't speak to her more recent work, but that very much how Bailey's a strength-based wrestler. She's
Mhm.
her thing is kind of I assume this they I'm going to assume I'm gonna give some charitability here. This is purposely constructed this way that since she's kind of the go get 'em noob, her move set is a little more straightforward and focused on power from what I've seen of her in these episodes.
Potentially also could stem from an idea of like, baby faces are a little more in general can sometimes have more basic move sets. It's a
Mhm.
very traditional way of looking at it.
Yeah, but it does end up fitting very well.
Yeah, it
But
does.
it is cool to notice about her. And again, intentional or no, I do appreciate that it seems to indicate an outward manifestation of this inner strength that she holds really close to her. I think it's cool that Bailey, who's kind of this lanky girl that you would think maybe she'll be a flippy girl or whatever, she's a
Mhm,
little more powerful
mhm.
than what she looks like just from a glance. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just think it's neat.
Yeah, I just think it's neat. 100%. And then Bailey gets the dub, obviously. This is going to be a very pro Bailey episode.
Yeah,
Guys.
really.
She beats Emma. She's conquered her enemy. She is
Hmm.
triumphed over her like cynical anti self
Other
or,
half, yeah.
or whatever you put it. And then she gets on the microphone after the match and is like, I'm back. I just beat Emma. I'm on a roll, but I want to be champion. And to be the next champion, I have to beat the best of the best. So Charlotte.
And that's Charlotte,
I
not
want to beat
Sasha,
by
Charlotte.
you. Mm-hmm.
Which rules.
Yeah, but first we get a Charlotte interview immediately after that, and Charlotte kind of tears up a little bit talking about the Divas Revolution that's going on Raw now. But she's about to accept Bayley's challenge, and then here comes Dana Brooke.
Of course.
She repeats a lot of the same talking points that I mentioned in the front half that I didn't like. I was kind of okay with her stuff about like, you want another chance to get you get another one of those, and she brings up how she's had like 4 opportunities to beat Sasha for the women's title, and then she gets an opportunity to go to run Raw, and she's like, wow, Charlotte, look at all those chances you get.
Yeah, and she's salty about it basically, and she does the your daddy's famous thing, and I'll give it, at the very least it kind of worked here because it was less about her work and more you get opportunities because Ric Flair is your dad, and yeah, fair enough. That is a fair point, and they're not being too weird about it, so I'll give it to them. But they're so salty that Dana even denies Devin the head pat this time.
Oh, that wasn't Devin, actually.
Oh, that was a different. Oh shit. I was like, I thought she looked different, but I wasn't
sure. Yeah. I admit they look similar, but I don't know who it was, but it's not Devin Taylor. So.
Oh, well, maybe that's why they
no head pats.
It's not because it's not Devin. You're not Devin. Imposter.
Imposter. You don't count.
But yeah, so as much as we were bitching about that in the front half, this spot it worked well enough, even though it doesn't really end up going anywhere in what we watched. But hey,
no, whatever.
At least it worked all right.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, it was a head pat fake out.
Yeah, she fakes it out, but she doesn't end up doing it.
She does come back for the head back. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Then the July 29th episode, we get Emma and Dana one last promo about this. And Dana's like, no one believed that no one believes I can beat Charlotte, but no one believed that I could take the fitness world by storm too. And I did that. And she's like, I'm going to beat Charlotte. Okay.
Yep. Oh, no, this is where we get the head pat fake out. Pardon.
Yeah. But she's like, you know what? This match is too important. Psych. And she came back.
Yep. Okay. Sure. And then we get to Charlotte versus Dana. And I don't have a whole lot to say about this, but it's solid. Because of course it is.
Right.
Charlotte's really good. Dana is good. I mean,
it's pretty short though. I think that's probably my biggest remark. She's a little short.
Diva's hair creeping in a little bit.
Yeah. Get fucked, Dana. Charlotte kind of kicked your ass.
Yeah, Charlotte kicks her ass. Dana puts up a decent fight. It was all right. Not really super notable, but it was a good match, and it caps off this little tiny baby arc we did as part of this series of episodes. So
sure. Let's move on to the real meat here. Is a August 5th episode of NXT. We get Bayley versus Charlotte.
Oh God! All right, I gotta pull up the notes full screen for this one.
Okay, let's go. I'll hear your notes first. I'll add on.
So this is an extension of what I was talking about with Charlotte versus Sasha, in that we saw Charlotte and Sasha both grown a lot since the beginning. Charlotte or Bayley's match with Emma was really, really good, but Bayley versus Charlotte, I think, is the real full example of how much Bayley's grown. She's on Charlotte's power level now too, just like Sasha is. One take I had watching this that I'm not totally sure is legit, if it's just kind of recency bias from me seeing things more recently and just remembering them certain ways. So I'll ask for your input on this. But something I was kind of thinking is that Charlotte seems good at chameleoning herself to her opponent's style, because she seemed to pull out more of her acrobatic gymnastics in her match with Sasha, and against Bayley she seems a little more power focused. Is that at all something you've noticed, or does that seem legit at all, or am I just kind of...
That seems a little legit. I think Charlotte is pretty multi-talented in stylistically, so I think that she's kind of able to work both ways.
Yeah. Although I do also see, and this is reflective of what I
Mhm.
talked about, I think at the end of last time, with Charlotte and Bayley kind of meeting each other on each other's terms, is Bayley's gotten a little more acrobatic in ring, I think,
Mhm.
from how she first started. If I'm remembering correctly, I think
I
she
mean,
does a little bit
she's doing
more.
a lot of stuff from the top rope these
Yeah,
days.
she does a lot more rope work, a lot more jumpy shit. Now she doesn't go full flippy, but she does a
No.
lot more rope work. And again, meeting Charlotte on her level a little bit,
Mhm.
she's grown and she's taken things from her contemporaries to add to her own arsenal, which is
No.
great. And of course, Bayley for the dub. Bayley's on a fucking roll. Yeah, hell yeah. It felt really good to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say some cool sequence I remember is like when Charlotte was trying to like push Bayley into the corner, Bayley flips over Charlotte and then hits her with the Bayley to belly
Mhm.
right off of that. That was a really cool move. But
Oh
then we
yeah.
also got the first like kick out of the Bayley to belly, as far as I'm aware, requiring Bayley to take it to the top rope.
I
The
think we've
Super
seen Bayley to
Bayley.
belly kickouts before, or maybe they've just been failed Bayley to bellies. I can't remember.
I think it's only failed Bayley to bellies. I don't remember her getting kicked out of. I was pretty shocked because I didn't realize Charlotte did that. But you hit her with the top rope Bayley
Yeah.
to belly, which was nuts.
Well, what's interesting about the Bayley to belly too is relative to other finishers. Again, talking about her moveset earlier, it's kind of basic,
Mhm.
basic, simplistic, straightforward, whatever you want to call it. But
It's pretty basic. I mean,
yeah,
to
yeah, but
kind of derail a little bit, but like the Netflix series Glow like lampshades that move.
but like I think what's cool about that is again it plays into Bailey's style in that she's
Mhm.
running with the classics because she grew up on this stuff, and that's she's the excited noob, and that's kind of what she goes
Mhm.
for. But also, I really like how it speaks to the intelligence of her character, especially if what you said is true, and I just hadn't noticed it about nobody's really kicked out of the Bailey to belly before, is that she's very good at employing it tactily.
Mhm.
Uh, there is a distinct idea in her mind of when is the right time to employ that finisher
Mhm.
because she saves it for those times where her opponents are depowered enough that just simple slam to the floor is going to be
Bam.
really effective.
Don't want to waste your big move
Exactly.
before you're done.
Again, there's so much great storytelling with just her moveset, just her physicality.
Mhm.
I talk about this all the time, especially in this arc, but it really is true, and it's exemplified. I got to see so much really concentrated here now that Bailey's moveset is really fully evolved into just how true that is for her, and it's
Mhm.
almost mind blowing in how smart it all is.
Plus the fact that like her finishing move is a move where she hugs you and then slams you.
Yeah, yep, that works. Bailey is gonna hug you. That is very true.
But Bayley gets the big win, which is kind of significant, I think, especially for the way we followed this arc, because literally the whole thing was about her beating Charlotte.
Yeah.
We
This
started with
I
her
couldn't
beating
remember.
Charlotte and being unable to do so.
Yeah, I couldn't remember. Is this her first time beating Charlotte?
Yes, this is her
Okay,
first
that's
time
what I
beating
thought.
Charlotte.
That's what I thought. Because I didn't wanna make a note about it because I wasn't sure, but yeah, this is her first she has finally beaten Charlotte. She's beaten the best, and of course, it's all uphill from here.
Yep. So, and in fact, later in the episode, she heads to William Regal's office to speak to him, and she's like out of breath and she's excited, and then
Yep.
William Regal has to be like, slow down, calm down here. What do you want what do you want to say? What do you want to ask me about? And she's like, you know what, I'm on a roll. I just beat Charlotte and I want a match for the NXT women's title. And old William Regal is like, well, you've earned it. Yes, you have, but you're not the only one who's earned the title shot. So here's what we're going to do is next week you will have a number one contenders match with Becky Lynch. And so that sets up the August 12th episode.
Also, shout out to fucking stoic British old man tendencies, and Bailey goes in for the hug, and Riggs is just like, nope, solid handshake.
Give me a firm handshake.
Give me a firm hand. Oh man,
I don't know if you caught it, but he had a very cute line afterwards to be like, "Oh, by the way, I just wanted to let you know that my niece, you are her favorite wrestler."
I did not catch that. That's adorable though.
Yeah,
But
no.
oh my god. But yeah, it gave me flashbacks to my own British grandfather. Oh, I love how tropey old British men are. It's beautiful. Anyway,
Indeed.
just a personal note from David. Oh,
Yeah.
good shit.
Then we moved to
Authentic.
authenticity here. So the August 12th episode, Bayley and Becky Lynch for the number one contenders match. But oh ho ho, we also get Sasha Banks at the commentary table.
Oh yeah, this was good. But I do kind of have meaningful things to say about this because then it ended up tying into some of my notes for the final match. But yeah, Becky versus Bayley for the top contendership, and talking a lot about styles in this episode specifically. It's cool to see them square off for two reasons. One, on the styles conversation, is their styles, kind of like Charlotte's and Sasha's are kind of close together. Their styles are a little closer together because Austin and I were talking about this, and Charlotte and Sasha are the little more acrobatic of the two, whereas Bayley and Becky are a little more strength based. So it's cool to see two pseudo brutalists go at it with each other in ring. And it's also, of course, especially cool because, oh my god, the former teammates that were at the top of this all, Bayley's first post Charlotte friend, they're now squaring off for the top.
They're from the
Finally.
again, how is this all plays to how we started is that when Becky Lynch first came to NXT, besides viewing river dancing, her shtick was being best friends with Bayley, her being Bayley's next friend after Charlotte betrayed her.
Yep.
And then Becky betrayed her too. Rip.
Yeah, but look how far Becky's come as a character, and look how far they both come as workers. Oh god,
good shit. And I think it's a really technical match. You talk about Charlotte kind of coming to Bayley's level. I think Bayley does a lot to come to Becky's level and play to Becky's strength. Who's Becky, especially since she started doing the disarm her, very technique based.
Oh
and
yeah,
I think Bayley definitely came to play on that aspect too.
Becky, is probably the technician of the bunch. But I did notice a lot more in this match and the next one of Bayley starting to go more into technique too. Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, she matches Becky really well and is able to understand her former friend and how best to dismantle her offense. It's great.
Yeah. And Sasha on commentary. Fantastic.
Being a fucking egomaniac the whole time.
No, I love it. She's basically like, oh yeah, they're good, great, whatever. But what about me?
She's just basically being like, let's focus on me here, boys.
To her credit is that is like when we got to the more intense ending of the match, she kind of shut up, and that's I appreciate her like instincts to know to do that.
Yeah.
Like once the match really started kicking into high gear to the end, she knew to like stop making it all about me and let them talk about the match.
Oh, absolutely. What was great about it was that it did provide a great accenting early on that this is who we have to face at the end of it. It helped add this impending shadow over the contendership match. I mean, contendership matches always have that shadow because you always know what they're squaring off for. But having that immediacy of Sasha there on commentary, being a snarky bitch about it the whole time, really made it palpable of what the final, no pun intended, boss was of this
Hey!
But either way, yeah, when it came time to focus on the two women, Sasha did sit back and allow the moment to marinate, which just, again, the skills on all of them, in ring, on mic, fucking whatever, are all impeccable. It's insane to me how good these women are. Holy shit.
As for the match itself, again, it's more technique based, and Becky once again going at Bayley's arm, and like something I just kind of realized is that I think Charlotte might have been the only person in these matches that didn't try to attack Bayley's injured hand.
Again, Charlotte, that lawful neutral. She's gonna do it the honorable way, which I appreciate.
To be fair to Becky, I don't think she's doing it as maliciously as Emma and Sasha do it. It's more just like, this is the best way for me to win. I gotta win.
But also, you also then remember what Sasha was going off about the whole time, and that why isn't she going for Bayley's broken hand? So there is a nice foreshadowing, but B,
Yep.
there is while there is a lot of technical pain deliverance going on here, there's still a distinct refusal to engage in nastiness.
Right.
Again, more along the lines of Becky's face turn that's kind of implicitly happened by this point. There is a level of honor between the two women that carries through, and that was marked very well by Sasha being like, "Hey, why aren't you going for the broken hand, Becky? What the fuck?"
Go for the hand.
Yeah. And also,
Figure out.
one last important thing that's set up with Sasha on commentary is they ask her early on who her preferred opponent out of this is, and she's like, "Oh, well, I don't really want to fight either
You
of
know.
them, but if I had to pick, it'd be Becky. I just think she'd be the better opponent." And that sets
That's
up
gonna
kind of the
that's gonna
final
set up
threat.
the next couple of bits with Sasha and Bayley.
Oh, yeah, and again, I have plenty to say about that.
So, props to Sasha for not doing the thing where you try to like get out of having any contenders by making the match go to a DQ or whatever. I just want to point out that's like the least successful trope in wrestling ever. Like literally every single time that ever happens, the authority figure is like, "Well, I guess it's got to be a 3-way match."
Waka waka.
It's like, oh god damn it! My plan to have no contenders failed again.
Oh, darn it!
Darn it! It never works. But
If
anyway,
only I had any amount of precedent to predict that this would happen.
no,
Oh,
oh
dear.
well. I guess they had to deal with it.
But no, of course they did it the smart way this time because of course this arc is great. Yay!
Sasha and it ends where it kind of a really cool sequence of Bayley has Becky in the Bayley to belly setup. Then Becky reverses out of it and is dragging her down with an arm bar to the point, but Bayley's fighting and scratching
and
and
it was a
clawing.
disgusting arm bar.
No, it's the disarm her. I don't know what you. They definitely never tried to call it the disgusting arm bar.
It makes me cringe so fucking hard, dude.
That would be very dumb, and they clearly never did that.
Yeah, again, as I pointed out to us, was that fucking ever called that is a kind of funny undermining of Becky's character up to this point of being like I started out selling out who I was to a stereotype, and now I've come into my own and had self-actualization, and then we're making fun of her accent in her ultimate like finisher submission, like fuck off.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, luckily that
we
didn't
got
last that
Becky
long.
is trying to drag Bayley down for the disarm her, but Bayley is able to grab Becky by the leg, roll her up for the 1, the 2, and the 3.
Oh yeah, and something I really liked about the end of this, and I don't know where my note on this went. Oh yeah. Is that there's something I noticed during the replays specifically because they were after the match is done, they run through the replays and we see 2 of Bayley's attempted pins on Becky that didn't work first. And both times, Becky was just kind of laying prone. And I thought to myself in those moments how wrong that would have felt if that was like how weird that would have felt if that was the way that Becky went out. And I couldn't quite pinpoint why, but something about that is like, man, it is kind of weird that this is how my thought process went. It was, man, it's kind of weird that in order to put people over, wrestlers will just kind of like lie there like a bitch for their opponent when, for all we know, they could still have more fight in them IRL. And then I thought about it more. I'm like, oh, well, probably the reason you don't notice that a lot is because it's really earned. And then I'm like, why wouldn't this have felt earned here? And then I watched Bayley's pin of Becky in the replay, and I realized what worked so well is that Becky fought through it up to the last second. Becky, this is probably the most I've ever seen anyone actively fight a pinfall. And it felt so fitting for this arc specifically. And for Becky as a character, because her whole thing is she's kind of come up as the feisty, came the fuck out of nowhere, will fight to the bitter end because she's just that fucking into her craft. And I think that worked insanely well too. The moment of Becky fighting to the bitter end through Bayley's pinfall of her. I think that moment was really brilliant. It's small but brilliant moment
Yeah,
right there.
I agree. It feels appropriate that like like not necessarily the scrappiest, because I think that'd probably be Bayley, but the most like we talked last time about how she has this desperate air about her,
Mm.
and it's kind of appropriate that she loses in a desperate pin as she fought so hard to escape but just couldn't.
Yeah. God damn.
But the stage is set. Bayley versus Sasha Banks at Brooklyn.
Yup. And so, of course, what's there to do before a big major match
We
but
gotta
a contract
we gotta
signing?
sign
Yeah.
that contract.
Of course. We always gotta with the contracts around here, huh?
Yeah. This is a legitimate business, sir. We sign these contracts.
On stage with mics in hand, so there can always be some drama bullshit that goes down.
And
Heyo.
drama there is.
Drama
So
there is. Because of
we get
course, yeah, Billy Reeks walks out and he's like, we have a top contendership match. We have a championship match coming up. So of course we have to have the traditional contract signing. And Bayley and Sasha come out, and Bayley immediately gets on mic, and of course she does. And to your point of Bayley ultimately wins this thing by doing things her own way. My note here was that she's standing up to Sasha's ego in her own way. She doesn't stoop to a whole lot of nastiness. She gets like one little dig in on Sasha, but ultimately it's her rallying her people and it's giving that aggressive positivity and optimism to buck up and say to Sasha, I'm fucking ready for you.
Mm-hmm. And of course, Sasha has to be like, "Oh,
And of course, Sasha's got to be a motherfucker about it. Was my
you
note.
got the big match."
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, "You're a loser, Bayley,
Yup.
and you're a loser. It's gonna be easy.
Loser.
You're gonna fail again." And then
Loser.
loser. And and so she signs the contract with her ridiculously large stamp.
Yeah.
And then that's when the real drama starts, I think, because
Well,
Sasha's about ready to skedaddle out of here.
first, I want to point out that we had the final ugly head rearing of the fucking Ratchet chant. It's back in full force for this one, and I was like, God damn it! I thought we were done with this.
That's so hard. And she's like, I'm Ratchet. No, I'm the boss.
Yeah, and luckily we did have a chorus of no, she's not. But goddamn, the strongest I've heard the Ratchet chants in a minute. I'm like, I did not miss you.
I think that it comes from the fact that, like, okay, so for a little outside context, is that the Full Sail crowd got super fucking salty about the fact that they're doing Takeover in Brooklyn.
Oh, really?
Yes. Like, just the mere mention of Brooklyn always got boos, if you notice. Like, when Regal said it, when Sasha said it, baited them into booing her. And kind of infamously, Kevin Owens cut a promo about this. And he basically called the entire crowd a bunch of entitled babies, which they were being.
They were being entitled babies about this.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. You've been loyal to this, and of course they got to take their big match to the other like side of the country horizontally. But like, guys, please chill a little bit. It's how we do.
All-time great Kevin Owens promo when he shits on the Full Sail crowd.
For this. I'll have to check that out at some point.
Yeah. But anyway, so like the fact when she brought up Brooklyn and that this match was going to happen there, like the crowd, it felt like the crowd was already like, you know what? Fuck you.
They're like, damn it, we're vindicated in calling you Ratchet.
Yeah, I guess.
Entitled babies, a lot of them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So after they all sign the contract, Sasha is ready to get out of here. She's like, all right, I'm done. And Bayley's like, no, hold on a minute. I've seen my fair share of contract signings, and I've watched WWE a lot. And I saw what you did to Becky. This is gonna be some drama shit, isn't it?
Bayley lampshading the trope made me so happy. It was so fucking funny.
Shit, David. We have a baby face that watches the show.
Oh
That's too
man,
powerful.
that's so meta. I don't know what to do with this.
And so she runs out like how she's ready for this. You know that like I know that this is my moment. They know this is my moment, and you know it, Sasha.
Yep.
And Sasha, this is when Sasha decides to start cutting real deep. When Bayley tries to start this again, she brings up that Becky and Charlotte were threats. You aren't.
Yep.
There's a reason that you're not on Raw and SmackDown like we are.
Oh man.
And we start to do the part of this arc about the 4 horsewomen and how suddenly there's kind of a pecking order and Bayley is at the bottom because she's not the one on Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah.
And as Sasha will say many times in this segment and this match, and in the match, she's like, "You're a loser, Bayley. You're pathetic." And I was hoping I could draw more parallels to Charlotte's promos about Bayley at the beginning of this. And there's a little bit. It's not quite the same. She doesn't necessarily say, like, you need to grow up, Bayley. But she does point out that of Bayley's childish persona in her eyes. And she said, "Oh, you're a role model for all these little girls? Well, I'm going to be a role model and show them that fairy tales don't have happy endings."
Oh, I know. Like, fuck, okay.
Sasha Banks, big fan of the Grimm fairy tales.
Yeah. So, sounds like some weird boomer shit, but okay.
Sure. So, but I do think there are parallels to this idea that like Bayley's persona and who she is as a person makes her opponents see her as lesser and underestimate her. And for Charlotte did win, but even if Bayley gave her respect, but oh boy, Bayley and Sasha are going to be a little bit different.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was saying, and we end with I like that we end this moment with Sasha is trying to leave. She's like, "Well, my work here is done,
bitch."
And then Bayley's like, "Oh fuck no." She has to think about it for a second, and then she runs up the ramp and starts beating Sasha's ass.
Oh yeah, one last round of aggro Bayley before the final match, baby.
Has to get pulled apart by the referees. Have to drag her away.
Yeah, the aggroist of all the Baileys. But to your point, I do really agree that something I noticed is the condescension to Bayley from Sasha here feels like such a thematic through line with how this all started. If we're talking about this as the story of Bayley, it's been a thing with Charlotte. It's a tiny bit with Becky, more Becky just being like implicitly saying Bayley made me sell out, fuck you. And then Sasha, of course. I think Sasha's kind of the ultimate for this one because it's really highlighting the two extremes of where we started of the Mirror Master versus the Golden Girl. Of the one with endless ambition who thinks she's too good for everybody versus the one with endless optimism who just wants to reach the top in her own way. And the juxtaposition, this final juxtaposition of them before they square off in ring for that title match was a great just flashback almost to where we started of we've come so far, but we still have these final two little things to wrap up of both of them are still hanging on to their attitudes from when they started. But only one of them only one of those attitudes can be proven correct.
Yep.
So let's fucking see. I really liked that moment of the final standoff between them. It's beautiful, I think.
Yeah, before we move on to the match, I will say I had a total Mandela effect moment here
Oh,
because I swore to God that Sasha did the thing where she stood on a table and held Bayley down. And yes, I know she did that with Becky, but I thought she did it twice. I thought she did it
oh,
with Becky and with Bayley.
oh shit.
And so when she left, I was like, wait a minute. I thought, wait a minute, she's supposed to
Oh,
do the
hold
thing.
up a second. Yeah.
This isn't right.
Oof.
But no, apparently I just kind of combined both moments. She only
Fair
did
enough.
that with Becky.
Fair enough. Then we move on to the takeover, and we get Stephanie McMahon out first of all because
Her style and grace, it's something. Welcome to the queendom where the king bow down. Down. Okay.
Something Stephanie McMahon invented women.
Yes. So Stephanie McMahon comes out to kind of like, do the bit where they're like, here's what's the attendance. Woo, cheer. Because she's like, there's 15,589 people here.
I will say they integrated the attendance count in a cool way here of her talking about just how far NXT has come.
Yeah, she's rah-rahs about how like NXT has come so far that they can like fill a 15,000 seat arena for people who are just here to see NXT.
Yep.
There's no other show going on. It's just this.
Just NXT.
And which is in its own way pretty fucking cool. And then she talks a little about the Divas Revolution and acknowledges that it started in NXT. And she introduces the two competitors, Sasha Banks and Bayley. And first out comes Bayley.
Well, first we get a video package, and I want to talk about.
How did I forget the video package? Honestly, one of my favorites WWE's ever done.
It was pretty good. I thought it was kind of weird because the way they did it felt a little uneven in like focusing on like Bayley versus Sasha. I felt, but it felt like a little more Bayley centric, and it was kind of like. But I enjoyed it overall because I at first thought it was going to be a broad 4 horsewomen promo package, and it just kind of ended up being Bayley versus Sasha, kind of mostly Bayley. But the thing I really liked from this was that from a couple of the final segments, there was this really cute little girl like at like front row ringside who was dressed up just like Bayley, and she had a sign, and Bayley like gave her a headband and shit. And by the end of Bayley's dub against Becky, she was like fucking emotional. She was so happy, cute little thing. And she fucking got interviewed in this promo package. I call her Small Bayley. She's my new favorite, and I guarantee you she's going to become the next Bayley in WWE or AEW if she's smart about which company she works for.
Yeah. The part of the video package, I kind of enjoyed the fact the very beginning when Bayley, they play the Bayley theme and they're showing the highlights, and then they do the run and they do like the video, the music effect and like distort it, and then they show the picture of the 4 horsewomen and they slowly fade Bayley out of the picture. Some fucking Back to the Future fading out here.
What the fuck?
And like, it's a little bit of a rushed aspect of the story because it literally kind of just happened. What can you do? But I do kind of love they tried to make this parallel to this idea of Bayley as the underdog of like literally like everyone talks about the 4 horsewomen of NXT. Well, guess what? Raw and SmackDown only wanted 3.
Ooh, yep.
You don't belong. You are not on our level, Bayley.
And it is cool to see.
And it also had a great cut because they do the bit and they sort of intersperse some of Bayley's sit-down interview talking about how 2 years, so 2-year journey for her. And then right as they get to the part where they fade Bayley out of the picture, they snap cut to Sasha Banks and the first time she's talked in the promo to be like, so what? I don't care about Bayley. Like, I think that was really good editing.
Yeah, that was cute. Like I said, it was kind of weirdly Bayley centric, but I did like the Charlotte or the Sasha spots that we got. And it's cool they included that aspect.
Yeah. But then we get to Bayley arriving. She's in her gold and white gear.
Yeah.
She's
wearing the colors of the NB flag, I know.
Total accident.
Yeah.
But sweet.
Nice.
Yeah. She's wearing Dusty Rhodes colored headband and
Yeah, they said the polka dots was
wristbands,
for Dusty,
the
right?
polka dots. Yes, because Dusty Rhodes would have recently passed away at this point. I don't remember the
Dusty
exact date, but
Rhodes passed away in Wikipedia on June 11th, 2015.
yes. So, and Dusty Rhodes was kind of like the father of NXT as we think of it, as we know it. Like he was like the original rebrand of NXT. He was like front and center of that in terms of like training the wrestlers. Like any wrestler from that was in NXT from 2012 to 2015 has like oodles of stories about Dusty Rhodes. They would love to talk. They love to talk about. Everyone's got an impression of Dusty Rhodes' daddy.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's all very sweet and heartwarming. And, you know, it's sad that he's gone, of course, and all that.
Yeah.
But so Bayley paying tribute to Dusty in this match was pretty cool. And then out comes Sasha and her.
Wait, also, I need to point out with Bayley's entrance, I'm sorry, but so many inflatey boys.
She's got room for more inflatable tube men.
So many tube men. It was great.
Yep. And then we get Sasha coming out. She's got an entourage. She shows up in like a big car.
Yeah, fucking SUV. Not SUV. I don't know, Hummer looking motherfucker. Alberto Del Rio 2.0 out in here.
She should have come out in a Mercedes because her real life name
Mercedes.
is Mercedes. That would have been
a cute little lamp.
That'd have been hilarious. Anyway, she brings like 4 security guards.
Yeah. She somehow made Alberto Del Rio's entrance look even more opulent.
Yep. It's impressive, really. But she's coming to the ring. She's looking amazing. And we get to the match.
And of course it starts like it couldn't be more fitting with how this is kind of culminated. Starts with Sasha shit talking Bayley and Bayley just immediately starts canning her.
This match had a whole lot of Sasha talking shit and getting hit.
Oh, and I have things to say about that once it kind of gets toward the end of it. But yeah, it's an important part of the match, I will say.
Yes, early in the matches, you see a lot of aggression from Bayley as she's like a house of fire. She's throwing hands. She's ready to beat Sasha. Sasha, though, is able to use her superior technique to kind of give the advantage and start beating down on Bayley. But the thing is, Bayley keeps fighting. Bayley dodges the dreaded knee drop twice.
Yeah. And then gets knee dropped from the top rope and still fucking gets up from it.
And I think that a moment of the match, and I think that was a turning point of the match for the next. If I want to try to act like this match has acts to it,
absolutely,
I would argue that the end of Act 1 was the knee drop because the Sasha decides to have a different tactic now because Sasha is getting mad. Like that is, I want to like shout that out right now. Is that like Sasha does a great job throughout the match, looking increasingly angry and increasingly like frustrated and tired. It's like, why won't you die?
Yup, pretty much.
Yeah. So Sasha starts attacking the hand. And she kind of does a lot of stuff focused on the arm and the hand, but the 2 moments that most stand out is when she takes Bayley to the outside. She grabs Bayley's hand, she rips Bayley's arm tape off, and first she slams Bayley's hand into the ring steps, which if you have a broken hand, that would already suck. But then she's like, "Oh no, I'm not done." So she takes Bayley's hand. She manages to stick Bayley's hand in between the ring steps and the ring.
Yep.
So it's a tight space here. And then she kicks the steps into Bayley's hand. Sanding her hand like that.
Oh my God. Oh, that was such a crazy spot. I mean, the whole hand thing was nuts. But the hand and the steps between the ring, fuck. That was insane.
Yep. And then a little bit later on, we get Sasha gets the bank statement on. And Bayley, she's crawling to the ropes. She has her hand outstretched. And Sasha's like, you know what? Sasha starts stomping Bayley's hand to get her to stop.
You don't need a hand. Bye-bye.
No. That's not the last time she'll do that, but that's absolutely the first time. And I remember watching that being like in awe of like,
Oh
what
god.
the fuck?
Jesus, I know. Well, something I want to highlight too about this moment, though, when it comes to Bayley,
Mhm,
is something I thought about during the match, especially when there's a point where Sasha has Bayley in the corner and she's kind of slamming her head into the turnbuckle, but
mhm,
Bayley hulks up almost and reverses it. Is I was thinking about this because Bayley's always been resilient, but there's something about her resiliency in these recent matches specifically that feels viscerally like something exciting, like a character growth
mhm,
moment. I was thinking about why, because she's always been resilient, always been willing to get back up. But I think what makes it work is talking kind of how she's on Charlotte's power level earlier and how much her arsenal's grown along with all the other horsewomen, yada yada, is finally in a full sense, she has something to substantiate that resilience, that optimism. She has that incredible technical skill to back it all up. I mean, she had good technical
mhm,
skill since the beginning, don't get me wrong, but it's grown so much. And I think that's boosted her confidence in a way of knowing that she can step into the ring with the best of them and pull it out because she has the skills to do so. And it allows that resiliency to be bolstered into something really, really powerful. And it has a lot of great moments to shine throughout the match. And what I think is the coolest of all is this moment where Bailey's in a submission hold from Sasha and is reaching for the rope, and Sasha's like, "No, fuck your hand." And Bayley, what's really cool is that Bayley eventually reaches out her other hand, touches the rope for a brief moment, but instead of touching the rope and breaking the hold, she pulls out a reversal on Charlotte.
mhm,
And I think that is perhaps the most important moment of the match, because with Bayley, she's always been great, but was kind of bridesmaid never the bride, because she always had that moment where she had to tap out of the thing, where she just
mhm,
had to give it up. She couldn't take it anymore. But here in a submission hold, she doesn't elect to break it. She elects to reverse it.
mhm. And the
And
announcers lose their mind at this. They're
I
like, "How did she do that?"
yeah, and that it was a moment unlike any other,
Mhm,
especially for a character like Bayley, because feels like the ultimate culmination of everything we've seen with her
mhm,
up to this point, was that reversal. It was
mhm.
incredible and incredibly meaningful.
And she doesn't just reverse it, she reverses it into the bank statement and puts the bank
Yeah.
statement on Sasha.
Yup.
And
Again.
Sasha has to roll her way into the ropes to avoid tapping out to her own move.
Yup. And yeah, Sasha's the one that ends up having to go to the ropes for it and break it that way. Again,
Mhm.
really meaningful. And that leads
Yep.
me to kind of what the Sasha side of this match and this kind of final rivalry is. Sasha's shit talking all the way from the the egomania of her on commentary during the top contendership match, all the way to her just like shit talking Bayley all throughout this match, is I mentioned getting cocky, and that's really what it is. It's her getting cocky.
Mhm.
It's what makes Sasha lose this match, if we're looking at it from a character perspective,
Mhm.
is we've talked about Bayley winning on her own terms, and that's kind of on a character moral level why she's permitted to, why we are rewarding her with this win. And you think about Sasha at first and you're like, well, Sasha's the same as she's always been. She's fucking driven and she just wants this and will fight for this, however, blah blah blah. And that's just always a constant with her. So why? But if you think about it, these final moments of her being so egotistical on commentary and being condescending to Bayley during the contract signing, and being really bitchy to her in ring and just shit talking her the whole time. It's a form of complacency, and
Mhm.
ultimately, it's antithetical to everything that got her here, because she isn't in some ways giving this match her all because she thinks that Bayley should be an easy win, but
She's
not.
she's never been this much of a shit talk. Like, we've literally watched all of the matches up to this point. She didn't act like this bad against Charlotte. She didn't act this bad against Becky. She was extra cocky and arrogant and egotistical tonight with Bayley, and that ultimately cost her.
Yep. And again, the character building, the storytelling here between these two women is so brilliant because that's what it is Bayley wins because she stayed true to everything that she was from the beginning, all the best parts of her. She stayed true to them, she grew them, she matured, and she found a way to do it on her own terms. And what made Sasha lose is at the very last second, when it was most crucial, she abandoned everything she stood for by deciding she didn't need to really fight for this. And that's what cost her. And oh my God.
Great shit.
Fuck. And also, again, shout out to Bayley doing submission holds by this point. Again, we were talking about it last match, but Bayley's become a bit of a technician herself at this point. She's not just a straightforward brutalist. She does have submissions in her arsenal as well. And she can fucking pull reversals on them and show that she can be a jumpy girl from the top rope and sustain a lot of damage. She's become such a great all-arounder, and it's again really beautifully indicative of everything her character was kind of destined to become as the WWE superfan who's wanted this more than anybody else ever has before. She's become, in some ways, the ultimate avatar of everything she grew up loving. It's incredible.
Yeah. Before we get to the absolutely insane final sequences of this match, I want to shout out Sasha's taunting was at her best, I think, in this match, where she literally grabs one of Bayley's hair bands, ties her hair into a ponytail, a loose ponytail, and then starts doing the air high fives while Bayley is on the outside. It was absolutely hysterical.
The mirror master gonna mirror master. I do appreciate how hard they lean into that motif.
Yeah, but okay, the end of this match. What the fuck? Okay, so in about an order, we get Sasha had kicked out of Bayley to Belly already. And so Bayley is trying to set up a top rope Bayley to Belly. And she's got Sasha up there, and she ends up going for a Hurricane Rana. That, if you don't know what that is, it's basically like, it's hard to explain it without just doing it. But it's like you jump at somebody and grab them by their neck with your legs and then flip them.
Yep.
And so Bayley goes for this. Sasha blocks her, and Bayley lands on her fucking head.
Yup.
It was a nasty landing. I was like, what the fuck? I forgot she landed like this.
Yeah, I don't know. She took that bump like a fucking champ, dude.
Yeah, I felt bad for her. I hope she's all right after that. But we continue onward, and we get to the finishing sequence of the match, where Sasha has got beating Bayley down. She took advantage of the messed up Hurricane Rana. She goes to, I don't know what she was intending to do up there, but she's grabbing Bayley and putting her on the top rope.
Yeah.
But Bayley fights it off. And then Bayley goes for a poison Hurricane Rana, which is the same thing as what I mentioned before, but instead of flipping someone from the front, you're flipping them from the back. It's absolutely disgusting. And Bayley hits a poison Hurricane Rana. Me and David are both like, what?
Yeah. I've never seen that move before, I think.
No. I've never seen it from the top rope except in this match. I've seen it before of people who don't do it from the top rope. They just do it in the ring. Never seen top rope version. Oh, it makes me forget is the moment where me and David did a stereo holy shit was Bayley is on the outside and the referee is like, hey, Bayley, all right, get back in the ring. And Sasha fucking dives over the referee.
Oh my God.
I forgot about Bayley.
That was such a great spot. I've never seen anything like that.
No.
This match had a few. I've never seen anything like this before, and that was one of them. And yeah, holy fuck. The ref was such a good sport about that, I guess, because holy shit, that was insane.
Yeah, that was crazy. Anyway, back to our finish here. Is so Bayley hits the poison Rana, and then Bayley, she picks up Sasha for the Bayley to belly one more time. 1, 2, 3. And Bayley
again,
is the new
that
NXT
application
Women's
of the
Champion.
Bayley to belly, such a simple move, but so effective because she knows when to apply it, especially now. Oh my god.
And shouts out to Sasha Banks, who is an expert ragdoller, who always has made the Bayley to belly look like the most dangerous move on the planet.
Oh, I know. She sold it incredibly well. God, these women are so talented. Holy shit.
So Bayley is the champion. Bayley is immediately in tears. She honestly, she sits there for a minute, like just holding the belt, being like, wow, I won. And then out comes Charlotte and Becky.
Yeah.
We missed this earlier. Earlier in the show, they highlighted that they were sitting in the front row of the show, and they run out. They jump the barricade. And they run to go celebrate with Bayley
immediately. And that was one of the first thing I noticed too was we have Becky in there, full face turn Becky now in there to celebrate with her, and Charlotte, who's been with her since the beginning in a lot of ways, being there, and then of course we get Sasha in on the mix.
Yeah, we get a big hug spot. They lift Bayley up on their shoulders for a second. Everyone's celebrating and congratulating Bayley, and then Sasha comes over.
Yep.
And Sasha is this isn't the first time she's been allowed to show this kind of emotion. Like when her first match with Charlotte in this series of episodes, she gives Charlotte a hug there too.
Yeah.
But here she goes out like a graceful loser.
Yeah.
And
well,
because it's a bit of a kayfabe break. I'm going to go ahead and do it this way, but you go on.
I mean, yeah, it is, but I can see it even a tiny bit in kayfabe of just the thematic bloviating I've been going on about this whole damn arc is a little bit of the recognition of the fact that Bayley had earned that, and that Sasha can recognize that and respect that. Again, even if in kayfabe she's the ultimate motherfucker who won't take shit from anybody, I do like them getting to highlight that aspect a little bit of this is undeniable even to Charlotte. I mean, and part of this is allowing it to be Bayley's story. She's now the horsewoman that's left in the NXT, so we're kind of allowing her to be the main character of this. And nice and fitting that everybody's hugging each other. Just Bayley's thing.
And I was also gonna say is I don't give a shit if this doesn't make sense in storyline either, because this is the 4 horsewomen coming together.
Yeah,
and celebrating each other and the moment. They've never done this kind of moment again. And I think it's just a situation of admittedly, there's more money in WWE to keep them not all together because they're all the biggest stars in the company.
Yeah.
There's more money in letting them be rivals and continuing to go back and forth between heels, baby faces, whatever.
Yeah.
Than there is in having them be a united front. That having been said, it's really fucking cool to see them be a united front.
It really is. And I need them to do that again at some point because holy shit. But yeah, they hold up the 4 and it's incredible, and you can just see how moved all of them are to be in this position. And it's tremendous. There again, the emotions that run watching this arc are next to none because of just how meaningful this all was. And our 4 leads, as it were, are so deeply talented and so deserve to be such important parts of wrestling history as they are. I mean, there's not much else to say. It's just perfection.
Yep.
And I think no better way to end this arc than that final image.
That is ultimately, I think, besides how perfect of an arc it tells for Bayley, knowing that moment was at Takeover Brooklyn, I was like, I can't end it anywhere else. We don't need to see the postscript of Takeover the End. This ends here, like this storyline so perfectly ends right here.
Yeah.
And I will go ahead and answer a question you had while we were watching, is about like Bayley sticking around in NXT. That was really a situation of entrusting Bayley to kind of be like the veteran leader.
Okay.
While NXT was letting the next generation of women come through.
Okay.
And start to build up. She was trusted to be the steady hand of that locker room until she gets called up 6-ish months later. 8-9 months. I don't remember exactly when she gets called up, but it's relatively soon after this, I guess. But it feels like I don't need to say like I would like talking about how much that moment at the end meant. The commentary kind of said it for me when I don't remember which one, but they said this is the Divas Revolution. Like, there's a lot I can say about women's wrestling in WWE these days in 2021, but let's keep it positive. The women's revolution, as I said from the start of this arc, there's a lot of contributing women to this story. And I don't wish to undermine or forget their contributions, but in terms of like the people at the forefront of when this blew up, it was Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, and Bayley. And it's just really cool watching their entire development and growth from who they were at the start of all this to who they become. And them going from, women getting an A spot on a show, I guess, to 15,000 seat show that they were the co-main event of, and a lot of people's eyes should have just been the main event.
Yeah.
Like, as I'll tell you from this show, is that like the Finn Balor Kevin Owens match that happened afterwards is the real main event, was just kind of whatever in comparison. Like, the emotional high was this.
Yeah.
And that's pretty insane to think about, even a year or two before, that 16,000 people in an arena, like the moment that they came to see was the women's match and Bayley becoming the women's champion. What a fantastic time. What a time to be alive.
God, I can't. I'm so happy we covered this arc. This is, I think, overall the best thing we've covered on this show. Just to reiterate from the front half, I am in awe of how incredible, and I'm so envious that you got to watch this unfold live way back in the day. But so it was so cool to watch this as guided by you, who you were there. That was awesome. I'm so fucking happy we did this arc.
Oh, same. Definitely. I would like to revisit this format for these arcs too. I think make it easier to run longer form storylines here than what we sometimes do. But this arc now is coming to a close. So what are we replacing it with in our arc schedule? Well, I had some ideas and I thought about it. And I'll be honest, I want to do a tournament arc. Haven't done one on this show yet. Thought that'd be fun. And to be honest, I kind of am not done talking about women's wrestling. This has been fun.
Me neither. I fucking love women's wrestling, dude.
And there is a particular wrestler that I really, really want David and Elizabeth, let's hype that up a little bit, to actually see for the first time. So our next arc we'll be covering, it's an AEW arc.
Yeah, baby!
This year in 2021, we had a women's tournament to determine Hikaru Shida's next challenger at Revolution 2021, featuring half the bracket in the United States and half the bracket in Japan. We are covering the AEW Women's Eliminator Tournament.
Oh, hell yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, hell yeah.
I'm
Oh
I'm
my
very
god.
excited for this.
Oh, yeah, baby!
But that is for our next arc. Our next episode is we are on the road to WrestleMania 3. There is in fact only one stop remaining. Because Saturday Night Live was in need of yet another time filler. It's time, with only weeks to go before WrestleMania 3, we get one last episode of Saturday night's main event.
Shit. Shit. Alright. Let's fucking go.
Yep. That is for next time. Until then, David, hit our plugs.
Yes, sir. My friends, my dear, dear friends, thank you so, so very much for joining us on this phenomenal episode, I think, of the Noobs and Knockouts podcast. If you are a returning listener, viewer, what have you, thank you so, so much for once again welcoming us back into your eardrums, your eyeballs, what have you. We're so happy to have you here. So happy that you continue to join us week after week and that you're having a great time. We hope you've had a great time with us following this arc, following any other episodes you like, whatever. We're just glad you're here. If you are brand new to our show, well, welcome. We are absolutely delighted to have you join us here on the Noobs and Knockouts podcast. We here at the Noobs and Knockouts podcast like to think that we are friendly to, in fact, both noobs and knockouts alike. So whether you are a veteran of the wrestling fandom or someone who's brand new to this wild, wacky world, we hope you feel equally welcome here and that you've had a great time checking us out. If you would like to continue to check us out and you're not entirely sure how to do so, well, not to worry, my friends. I have you covered. First of all, you can find us on YouTube. We are the Noobs and Knockouts Podcast on YouTube. Hit subscribe, ring that bell, make sure it turns a nice little solid color so you get notifications every single time we drop a new episode. Like, comment, watch our vids generally all the way through. Add us to your playlists, your favorites, your watch laters. Check out our playlist. Austin is kind enough to organize every single arc we follow into its own separate playlist. So if there's a very specific storyline or set of episodes or anything you want to focus on specifically, you can check all of that out on YouTube. It's awesome. It's really well organized. And if you watch some of the more recent episodes, you can see our beautiful, sexy faces live. We leave our video feeds up for the YouTube, so you can see us gesticulating and memeing with our faces and all that good stuff. It's a great time. Check us out on there. Austin's got a very rubbery face. It's great. You can also find us in audio-only formats on 3 of the best places to find your podcast, which would be Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. Check us out on all 3 of those. Give us a listen. Downloads, ratings, reviews, whatever the fuck you do on those podcasts to tell the algorithm these guys are pretty freaking dope. I think their show's pretty freaking dope. It'd be pretty freaking dope if more people checked them out. I don't know. I'm just saying. Great time. Unfortunately, we can't organize our podcast or our arcs into playlists there, but whatever. You can just do a little bit of scrolling. It's fine. Also, we're on social media. You can find us on kind of 3 main venues outside of our YouTubes and Spotify's, what have yous. First of all, you can find us on Twitter. We are the Noobs and Knockouts podcast on Twitter at Noobs and Knox Pod. I'm pointing to it right here on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. That's Noobs, the letter N, Knox Pod on Twitter. We drop some dank memes. We interact with the broad wrestling fandom on a whole. Engage in the discourse and post every single time we drop a new episode, so you guys are fully caught up on what the hell's going on. And of course, the highlight of our Twitter is Austin and occasionally me live tweeting the weekly wrestling watching experience. My friend, what is on the docket coming up?
Yes, so as usual here at the Noobs and Knockouts podcast, we regularly watch AEW Dynamite at 8 p.m. Eastern on TNT every Wednesday night. That is our usual weekly affair. But in addition to that, we also will be live tweeting WWE, Impact Wrestling, and AEW pay-per-view shows. So what's upcoming? How about WWE Survivor Series dropping?
Oh shit,
happening when this episode drops. It is the only night of the year where Raw and SmackDown go head-to-head, except for all the other days they do that.
Super shows don't exist. What are you talking about? Definitely didn't see one in Detroit.
The Saudi Arabia shows are also pretty non-canon, but
Look, either way, Don't think about it. I mean, Saudi Arabia, definitely don't think about those shows, but
Don't think about it too hard. But basically, we have a whole lot of Raw versus SmackDown theming. And hey, if you've been following this arc and you would like to see more of the four horsewomen, well, you're in luck because Sasha Banks is in the 5-on-5 Survivor Series match for Team SmackDown, and Becky Lynch is the Raw Women's Champion. Charlotte Flair's the SmackDown Women's Champion. They're going to go head-to-head in a champion versus champion match.
Yes.
So that's going to be pretty sick.
Yup.
That is again Sunday, dropping Sunday, November 21st, the same day that this episode should be released. And that is available on Peacock. We've already pitched Peacock. I'm not going to do it again.
Fuck Peacock.
Upcoming for Impact Wrestling on January 8th is Hard to Kill. It's going to be pretty sweet. I wish I had anything to tell you about any matches or storylines going on, but guess what? That's like 2 months away. We don't have anything on the paper yet, but you'll be able to buy Impact Hard to Kill on traditional pay-per-view and Fight TV, if you are so inclined. And then AEW, they literally this past week had a pay-per-view, Full Gear. David live tweeted.
I got to live tweet it. It was awesome. I saw it in a movie theater. I had my roommates there with me. It was fucking rad, and I got to live tweet my first ever pay-per-view. It was my first ever pay-per-view. I saw it in a goddamn theater, and I got to live tweet it on the Twitter. I was in goddamn heaven.
I'm very jealous that you live near a movie theater that does that. I don't.
I had I was like, this is a fucking shot in the dark. But yeah, there was a Cinemax or whatever. I don't know.
Cinemark, those are the ones that do it.
Yeah, there was a Cinemark. There was a Cinemark near me. And big ass fucking IMAX screen, reclining seats, whole 9 yards. We snuck some quality outside snacks in. It was a great time.
I'm very jealous. But
sorry,
anyway,
buddy.
So basically, AEW, also like Impact Wrestling, only does 4 pay-per-views a year, and so I literally don't even know what the next AEW pay-per-view is. Now, it will be AEW Revolution. AEW has a pretty set 4 pay-per-view titles, and so Revolution will probably be next. But we have no date for it, and we certainly have no matches, so I can't really tell you anything more information right now. Yeah. Call me in like a month, probably. Yeah. But AEW pay-per-views, you can find those on traditional pay-per-view as well as on Bleacher Report, and as well as apparently movie theaters.
Yes.
Please see your local theater to see if it's available near you. It's pretty sad. It seems pretty cool to me.
It's sick as hell, and it also costs less than just buying it and streaming it in your own home.
And it's true. Be on the lookout for that as we get more information about AEW pay-per-views upcoming. But for now, that is what our live tweeting will be doing on our Twitter.
Yeah, so be sure to check all that out. It's a great time. Austin usually has the reins. He's a great time to check out to check out wrestling with. I speak from experience, even if it's in a digital only format. He's really insightful. He's really funny. I like to think my live tweets are kind of fun too. I'm a lot less like insightful about what the fuck is going on. I'm just kind of memeing the whole time, but it's fun too. If you're a fan of David's very bad attempts at comedy on this show, well, you'll have a great time checking out those live tweets, baby.
I mean, your poll about like what was the most iconic weapon in that match. That was a pretty solid amount of votes.
That was 10 ass votes. That was solid distribution. Shout out to the Prince sign winning. I wholly expected it was going to be the toaster, but that's also a fair answer.
The Prince sign was pretty sweet.
If you know, you know. Anyway, so yeah, check all that out. We also have an email address. That's kind of way number 2 to get in contact with us. You can email us at noobsandknockoutspod@gmail.com. That's noobs, the word and this time, knockoutspod@gmail.com. It's a great little way to get in direct contact with us if you want to get more long-form conversations out of us. Come say hi. Tell us what you like about the show, what you don't like about the show, suggestions for what you want to see in the future, arcs, special episodes, whatever the hell have you. Just you want to have discourse about our many hot takes that you're probably pissed off about, or just generally come say hi and tell us how sweet and lovely the dulcet tones that emerge from our vocal cords week after week are. We certainly love to hear that stuff. Hey, we just love hearing from people in general. So if you want to hit us up like that, you can email us at noobsandknockoutspod gmail.com. And finally, we are on Patreon. We are also the Noobs and Knockouts Podcast on Patreon. $1 a month gets you early access to episodes and a shout out at the end of each episode.
See y'all next time.
Hasta luego.